Welcome to your next math lesson, talking about graphs. And today we're going to talk about the intercepts on a graph. And I want you to be able to identify the x and the y intercept on the graph. So let's take a look at what I'm talking about. So here's a graph. And this is all the information that I shared with you in the last lesson. We've got our different quadrants, quadrant 1, 2, 3, 4. And we have the graph of an equation here, which we'll get into more in the future lessons on how that comes about. But for now, it's just a line to us on the graph. And you can see that it crosses our two axes, all right, because it's a little on an angle here. We have the x-axis and we have the y-axis. And you can see right where it crosses, I've marked them so you can see them. And of course, where it crosses the x-axis, we call that the x-intercept. It's just that simple. You don't have to know why. Just memorize it. If you haven't printed this help sheet out already, please do that right away. You'll find it in your course, in course materials. And it'll be in the help sheets. And of course, where it's crossing the y-axis is called the y-intercept. Now, something I'm going to point out a lot today in this lesson is making sure that you're looking at the numbers on the grids before you determine what they are, what the x-intercept and what the y-intercept are. In this case, we're counting by ones. Very easy to see that. Everything's nice and centered. It looks good. All right. And remember also, coordinates. The coordinates of a point have x first and then y. So we always start in the middle. And we decide how far right or left we have to go when we're trying to get to a point. And then we decide how far up and down. And let me give you a little sneaky way that one of my students shared with me a few years ago of how to remember which one goes first. Let's say you're standing in front of an elevator. Before you can go up in the elevator, you have to step on the elevator. There it is. Okay, you have to step on. So that's a horizontal step forward onto the elevator. Okay, so you're going to step onto the elevator. Then, once you're on the elevator, you push a button, and it either takes you up or down. Okay, so remember the elevator when you're thinking, oh, which way do I go first? Do I go up and down, or do I go left or right? Well, if I was getting on an elevator, I'd go forward, or left or right, or whatever you want to call it, horizontally. Okay, because that's the horizontal axis. Okay. So I want you to check this out. Take a good look at this. There we go, at this one, okay. And I want you to notice here we have, first of all, if you notice, our axes aren't quite centered anymore because it's really not that important what's going on down here in these two quadrants, right? We don't really care. And we know that they're empty because it's over here in this quadrant. This is quadrant 2 for the most part. I mean, it goes into quadrant 3 and it goes into quadrant 1, but the important information that's going on is right here surrounding quadrant 2. So I also then want you to take a look at the numbers on the along the axis to determine how is the scale working, all right? You can't just assume it's by ones or halves or whatever, especially when you're working in Khan Academy. He likes to mix it up, so you got to pay attention. So if you look here, we've got a line here, and then we've got a 50, and then we have a line here, and then we have a 100. So what are each of these lines worth? Well, let's see. It's got to be half of the 50, right? Because this is halfway to 50 right here. 1. Right there is halfway. And between 50 and 100, halfway. All right, so what's halfway between 50 and 100? Well, that would be 75. Halfway between 0 and 50 is 25. So as you can see, it's counting by 25. So you have 25, 50, 75, 100, 125, 150, 175, 200. And so even though we don't have numbers on all of these grid lines, we know what they're worth. Now, that's the first thing. Second thing I want to know is, what is the x-intercept? Okay, so what is our x-intercept? I'm just going to write it like this. That's all I'm going to write. All right, so the x, we look at the x-axis. We go over here, and here it is, right here. Now, your first reaction would be to say, oh, well, that's at the negative 250. Okay, the x-intercept is negative 250. You're partially right, if that's what you did. Right, that is not the coordinate point. We need to specify the whole thing. Remember our parentheses? Now, we went left, negative 250. So that is our x value, comma. How far up or down did we go? We didn't. So that would be 0 for the y. Okay, there you go. There's our x-intercept. All right, now what is our y-intercept? Can't write very fast, can I? There we go. Maybe if I got my pen out, that would help. Okay, our y-intercept, of course, is where it crosses the y-axis. Right here at the 100. So again, if you just said that the y-intercept was 100, you'd be partially right. That is just the value of how far up we go. However, that's only part of the coordinates. So we want to say 0 for x, because notice we don't go left or right, we just go up. So the y-intercept is 0, 100. Now I want you to notice something. When we went for the x-intercept, the only number that had a value was the x. When we got the y-intercept, the only value that had a number was the y. I know, obvious, but I just had to point that out to you. Let's take a look at this one. What does it count by? See if you can figure it out before I give it away. All right, so it's counting by tens, right? 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. The obvious numbers are. But not really. The ones in between are by fives, because it's 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. Ooh, I just found the x-intercept right there, didn't I? So the x-intercept is 25, and we didn't go up or down, of course, because it is the x-intercept, so that makes it 0 for the y. All right, 25, 0. That is our x-intercept. Okay, now let's find our y-intercept. Oh, it's down here in the negatives. So our y is going to have a negative answer. What is our x when it's on the y-axis? If it's on the y-axis, x is 0. Now let's see. We were counting by fives. Pay attention. You never know. Mr. Sneaky might throw you off and have the y-axis a different scale. So we better double check. But yeah, 5, negative 10, negative 15, negative 20. Yeah, we're good. All right, so now we're at negative 50. Halfway between negative 50 and negative 60 is negative 55. Okay, you ready for another example? Oh, let me write that, but that's the y-intercept. Okay, moving on, another example. What does that one count by? Oh, this one's a little trickier. You're gonna have to put your detective hat on for this. Take a look. I like to go with an even one if I can, as you can see, or a positive one if I can. You can see this is all over here in quadrant 3 is the one that we're emphasizing on this one. So these other quadrants are pretty sparse in numbers, but you've got the positive y here we can go by. So it says 0.2, and there's nothing before it, and there's nothing right after it, and then 0.4. So it's kind of counting by 2's here, 2, 4, and I'm guessing this would up here would be 0.6, right? But is it really counting by 0.2's? No, because we've got the in-betweens. This is 0.1, isn't it? 0.1, 0.3. There we go. 3. All right, so it's counting by tenths of a point. All right, 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, 0.6. So let's see what we got here. This one actually crosses where it's marked, so we don't have to think about that one. But this is our x, and our x is at negative 1.2. And since we didn't go up or down, whoops, erase that. I forgot how for a second there. Eraser. Let's get rid of that one. I got it in the wrong place. There we go. And the y was at 0. So it's negative 1.2. 0 is our x. Take a look down here. our y is in between marks, so we're going to have to figure it out. We go negative 0.6 and negative 0.8. So this has to be negative 0.7. So our x is 0 because we did not go left or right. And our y is negative 0.7. Okay? Pause and take a good look at this if you didn't understand. Maybe even rewind. All right, now I've got a bunch of questions for you. You can do this. What does this graph count by? Now, what is the y-intercept? When you are doing this in Khan, be sure to pay attention to the order because I noticed that he kept switching it up. Sometimes he asked for y first, sometimes he asked for x first. So pay attention. This is for the y. What is the y-intercept? Okay, now, what is our x-intercept on this one? All right, next graph. What does this count by? And same graph, but what is the y-intercept? Be careful. Remember, the y is the number that has a value. The x position in our coordinate points, well, it'll have a 0. Okay, the x-intercept, what is that? Okay, we're all done. Pretty good, huh? Okay, so now I want you to practice. Hopefully by now you can identify the x and y-intercept when you see them on a graph. Have a great day.